NASA's Orion capsule has returned to Earth, landing in the Pacific Ocean after nearly a month in space. The parachute-assisted landing off the coast of Mexico followed a 25-day journey around the moon.
Splashdown. From Tranquility Base to Taurus Littrow to the tranquil waters of the Pacific, the latest chapter of NASA's journey to the moon comes to a close. Orion, back on Earth.
The mission has been part of NASA's Artemis program. It plans to take people back to the moon later this decade. Orion's landing on Earth today marks 50 years since the crew of Apollo 17 landed on the surface of the moon. Joining me now for more on this, NASA's Associate Administrator for Exploration Systems Development, Jim Free. Jim, thanks very much for your time. So it's described as successful, this mission. Why was it successful? What was it trying to achieve?
Well, thank you for having me. We had three primary test objectives, was to really test all of our systems on the spacecraft from launch to around the moon and return, pushing it to its limits with its thermal, its power generation, how fast and efficient it can use the propulsion system. That was the first objective. The second was to survive re-entry with the heat shield, where we're about 5,000 degrees, and then to recover the vehicle. And we have accomplished all three of those primary objectives. The vehicle is inside the ship, the USS Portland, and we'll be bringing it home here over the next couple weeks. So for us, the primary objectives were achieved.
And so you'll assess, do you get more assessment though once you can look at the vehicles and what happened on re-entry, all that type of thing, as to any other little details or tricky elements or things you might need to improve?
Absolutely. So we'll get a lot more data back from the spacecraft. We had recorders inside of it during re-entry where we'll get the temperatures across the whole heat shield. We still have a lot of engineering data to look through, and we have a lot of other recorders on the spacecraft. Our Commander Munikin Campos that was in there, our mannequin that had accelerometers on him to measure the forces when Orion landed there in the ocean. And then, you know, there's little things we'll want to work on, things we did learn during the mission. We actually added about 20 test objectives during the mission to continue learning about it, all before we put crew on in about 2 years for the Artemis II mission.
Yeah, so this is about going back to the moon. In the one sense, I'm sort of tempted to ask, why are we sending humans back there? But then I guess, why has it been so long since the last time?
Well, I mean, it's difficult. When we went the last time, you know, it took a significant part of our national budget, the will to do that. We had a different purpose then when it was, we were in the space race. Today, we're going back for science. We're going back to explore farther into the solar system, and we're going back internationally. So we're going to do a lot more science on the moon and on the way to and from the moon, as well as we did on this mission. We're going to push our technology on the surface of the moon so that we understand how it operates before we go on to Mars. And we're going about this, as I mentioned, internationally. We had a large European element on this mission, the European service module, which was right under the capsule. We have a broad international coalition called the Artemis Accords, which is how we explore in an open and transparent and safe way. So for me, it's a lot different than why we went the last time. And, you know, the other thing I'd say is we as humans want to explore. We want to find out what's across that next hill. It's in our nature to go beyond these frontiers. And I think that's what this is really all about as well.
Because it was there, the reason once given for trying to get up Everest. Just finally, look, and this is getting a bit Hollywood, of course, but we see so much imagination around other places humans might set up camp, and not, you know, in any small period, but permanent living, maybe for hundreds or even thousands of people. Is that going to happen anytime soon, do you think, or the logistics just make that still one that might be quite a way off in the future?
Yeah, I think physics makes that really hard. The technology to do that makes that really hard. What I'd say is we are on a path for sustainable exploration, which means we want to go for longer periods of time. We want to go more as a world, and we're doing that, as I mentioned, through our international partners. Beyond that, you know, what I saw today is pretty cool sci-fi for me, and that was getting our vehicle back. And I encourage you to go look at the incredible pictures that were taken during the mission of both the moon and the Earth and moon in one frame.
It's quite hard to get one's head around, isn't it? Look, Jim Free, we appreciate your time. Splashdown this time, and all the best for Artemis 2 as well.
Thank you.